Hi friends, welcome. Today we're here to discuss season 2 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm like very nervous about this video. I don't know why, but I feel like I always do my best to just talk about all the comments that I have in the videos themselves. And I know that there's so much that comes up after, when I'm editing, because then I'm rewatching the episodes and stuff, but still, I feel like I already talk enough. But I'm gonna do my best to just, reflect upon season 2, what I liked about it, what I possibly didn't like, and we'll see how this goes. I tried coming up with a little bit of notes. Hopefully you guys can't read this, otherwise I'm cropping this off, but yeah, they are a mess. So, okay, we should just dive right into it, and I hope this is somewhat interesting. I get really nervous about these things. Okay, so, season 2, that happened. I feel like there are going to be a lot of comparisons in this video because I think it's very hard for you to talk about something without comparing it to other things that you know. So I feel like my comparison is mostly just going to be with season 1 of Buffy because, that's more, that's the biggest thing that I have to compare to Buffy right now is just all the Buffy I've seen before. But pretty much, I feel like one of the main things that I want to say about season 2 is just that, to me, it did feel objectively better than season 1. And I feel like that's pretty much a given. I feel like most people would agree with me in this just because season 2 seems a little bit more appealing, and I want to talk a little bit more about why I think it's overall a better season. But that's not to say that season 1 is a bad season. I still think it's great. But I think that when you compare it to season 2, you get to see that, wow, I think I finally understand why everybody was just telling me, yeah, I mean, season 1's good, but it's not that great. And I was like, okay. And then now, after watching season 2, I'm like, I think I understand. I kind of get it now. One of the things that made me notice how good season 2 was just the fact that I started editing, I only created my Patreon, I think it was in 104. So therefore I had not edited the extended reactions for 101 to 103. So I was I had to edit those because I wanted them to exist. So I edited those sometime in season 2 when I was a little bit ahead. I was like, okay, so now I have some free time. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna re-edit 101 to 103 so that I can have them up on my Patreon. And I noticed that 103, which was an episode that I absolutely loved, you guys have probably noticed because I talk about The Witch so much just because I really thought it was the best episode of season 1, possibly. I mean, there were other great episodes, but that was just an episode that really stuck with me. I don't know why. But anyways, for me, this was the episode kind of thing of Buffy, up until this point. I don't know why. But anyways, I was editing that one as I was editing in real time 207, which means that I was kind of comparing it, I posted them at the same time. And it was only after, because for me, and I'm going to talk about some of the episodes that I feel are very life-changing in the Buffyverse, but I mean, to me, Lie to Me was the first time that I saw Buffy as more than just a TV show about a Slayer. I thought that it was that script is absolutely amazing, and so the fact that I was editing that episode, which is my favorite, I think probably my favorite episode up until this point, together with 103, which was The Witch, was so interesting. Because The Witch, which before used to be this amazing episode, suddenly it's not that it wasn't that great anymore, but I understood that it wasn't that great anymore and that it wasn't going to be that high on my list of favorite Buffy episodes because there was still so much that would come. And it's interesting that this didn't happen before because there were great episodes before 207. The Halloween was great, School Hard was great. But it was really Lie to Me, the fact that I was editing it together with my favorite Buffy episode, that just made me reflect upon how I really saw that Buffy was really getting better. So that was just a fun little thing that I noticed while editing, which was a complete, accident, the fact that these two episodes ended up clashing with each other in regards to my editing. But yeah, I think that season 2 definitely went away from the Monster of the Week thing from season 1 in some ways. I feel when I went into season 2, I expected it to be formatted very differently than it was. I honestly thought that the first half of it was gonna be Monsters of the Week, and then there was gonna be a mid-season finale, about really right in the half of the season, things were gonna switch around and we were gonna just pretty much focus on the big bad. And that was not really how things worked, you know, because this season, surprisingly enough, was pretty like, it had it like ups and downs. It wasn't very consistent, and that's not to say it's a bad thing, but I do not think that this is something that's gonna happen in other seasons, just because they had a lot of monsters in the week, like in the middle of other like bigger storylines, and it was interesting and it worked really well for season 2 because that made the big bad more mysterious. You know, when we were talking about Spike and Drew, and the fact that we only saw them a little bit every episode made us really curious about what they were leading up to, which ended up being very surprising because I feel like I expected there to be a really big confrontational scene at the end of the season where Spike and Drew would get very close to killing the Slayer. Like, that's what I assumed would be the finale. So I think it was a very big twist that they wouldn't go down that route, because I feel like everything that they were doing through the entire season was just setting them up as bad guys, and you're just waiting to see what they're ultimately gonna do, how that's gonna affect Buffy, and like how close are they gonna get to killing her, kind of thing, or are they gonna harm other people. But the fact that Spike turned out to help them was a really big twist, and a really big interesting twist too. So, you know, season 2 was definitely organized differently than that, because they had some amazing episodes that were more focused on like not a monster of the week, but then they would always resort back to the monster of the week. And even though I still think we're gonna keep having monsters of the week, I think that most episodes are still gonna have a connection to the big bad throughout. So I definitely expected the monsters of the week to be like more intertwined than just together rather than spaced out as they were. But I guess it helped just in the sense that the first half of season 2 I feel like would actually be pretty, not boring, but it would be very season 1-ish if it was just monsters of the week. So I guess that by spacing things out, it helped to make it more more interesting as a whole. It gets you more captivated because you don't know what episodes are going to be just a monster of the week, or they're going to be focused on, you know, Spike and Jealous Drew and all those people. So that was interesting. But there were many episodes that were, and I think people mentioned this, that were probably written for season 1. And I think you can tell it, you know, you can tell that certain episodes, it's not that they felt out of place, they were able to like link them very well, but at the same time, there are a few episodes that if you actually changed where they are in the story, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. Like, for example, Go Fish, which was 220, that episode could have worked pretty much like any time. Like, it could have been in the beginning of the season, you know, even though it was better, and I talked about this when I was reviewing that episode, it still felt better, it felt different than regular monsters of the week, but it's the kind of story that could have happened at any moment because there wasn't really much of the big bad and stuff like that. And I don't know if this is just because season 1 really stuck out to me because of the humor and the one-liners, which were hilarious, but I don't know why. Season 1 in my mind was kind of funnier than season 2, and that's not to say that season 2 wasn't funny. I feel so bad because whenever I'm saying something, I feel I'm worried that you guys are gonna misinterpret me because I really loved both seasons. Everything I'm saying is out of like love. But I don't know, I think maybe it's just because I wasn't expecting so much humor, but honestly, season 1 stuck out to me a lot for humor, while season 2, it's not that it wasn't funny, it had amazing moments and stuff like that, really funny moments, but I feel like season 1 was kind of funnier. I think they were still getting, you know, the hang of things, and I think that Cordy was a really big comedic relief, and now they're trying to make her into a better person, so they can't really fall back into the same sort of one-liners that she had before. Even though she still has many, they're not the same as the ones she had in season 1, I think. This show though, like, even though I feel like season 1 might have a little bit more comedic quotes and stuff like that, season 2 definitely had like the most well-written quotes. And, you know, this happened in Lie to Me, of course, that conversation on the graveyard. It's so well written, it's so beautiful, it has so many quotes, and just the forgiveness talk, I think it was in 219, I only have eyes for you, that whole talk with Giles, also like amazing quotes. Like, as a whole, season 2 had many episodes that were, that the scripts were better, not just because of the storylines and being more intriguing and stuff like that, but also just because of the fact that they went more in depth and they started talking about more serious things in a really profound way, and they were really able to put those thoughts into words, you know. And I think I've mentioned this before, like I'm a screenwriting student, so I write my own scripts and stuff like that, and I like personally I feel like I understand how hard it is to be vulnerable and be able to put that into words, and I feel like the writers do a very good job of that, because it's so hard to be able to write something like that and like make it match the rest of the mood for the episode. And not only that, but just how do you talk about something so hard in a show that's just a show? You know what I mean? Because it's television and most people are going to think it's just entertainment, you know, but what I like about TV is that I don't think it's just entertainment. I think it's a very important medium where you can share so many experiences, thoughts, and you can really help people in so many ways. And I think that I definitely see them trying to get away from this idea of being just entertainment and really just be able to make people feel things. And that's definitely what they did for me in Passion, which we'll discuss a little bit more later. There are too many open threads in my mind of things that I have to talk about. But it was just, I feel like the scripts, you know, oh my God, I really have a lot of admiration for what these writers are being able to do. They're doing a great job, and I know that there are going to be so many episodes similar to Lie to Me, and with all these great ways of like dealing with life and just everything like that. It's so hard to put it into words, and they do an absolutely great job. So congratulations, Buffy writers. I know that I'm always talking about how I'm gonna sue you, but you're doing a really good job, and it's very, very awesome. So something that came up on my notes that I just realized that I wrote twice, that's how important I guess I think it is, it's that I called season 2 the season of shocks. And I feel like when I'm further on in the show, I'm gonna look at this and I'm gonna laugh at myself, and I'm gonna be like, oh sweetie, you had no idea. Because I feel like season 2 is just the beginning of everything that's gonna happen. But it really shocked me in so many moments where I honestly felt like I wouldn't even have the words to describe what I was feeling. And I think that you guys have probably noticed that just through my reactions and all these moments where my face just drops. But what I really like about it is that the shocks aren't just with like any characters. They're shocking us with characters that we know. So, you know, they're making Jenny like a gypsy, you know, and you're like, oh my God, I am attached to Jenny. I know her, and now she's a gypsy. And then suddenly she's dead, but we don't talk about that. You know, when they have Oz become a werewolf, because you're like, the episode wouldn't have been as powerful if the werewolf was just anybody. So they're really raising the stakes by bringing these characters that we like and making them the shock. For example, bringing in a second Slayer, knowing that that would affect Buffy, like everything that they were doing, there were so many moments where I was in shock. Making Angel go back to being Angelus and being bad, like, bro, they did such a good job with that. And I feel like I wouldn't expect so many of the characters to be involved in those things, like Willow and witchcraft kind of thing. Like that was a huge plot twist that I low-key saw coming because of my Angel knowledge, but I kind of didn't though. So I just thought it was very interesting that they seem to be bringing in the characters for these stories. In regards to relationships, this season is very interesting because they really developed a lot more relationships than I could have imagined. And I have to say they did a pretty good job, and I can't believe I'm going to start talking about these two. But you know, in regards to Cordy and Xander, I have to say that they were able to make someone who was 101% opposed to this idea actually be able to watch their scenes without freaking out like I did the first time. Like, so that's pretty impressive. They were able to actually make something out of that relationship, which I kind of didn't expect. I thought that it was just going to be like for a few episodes, and then they were gonna be like, okay, we were barely dating, but we're done. But they were actually able to transform it into a good relationship. And that, I think, just proves to me that they're really gonna be able to do a lot of things with relationships if they're able to make me almost ship someone that I completely, like, a couple that I was completely opposed to. That makes me think that they're gonna be making me ship a bunch of weird, like, things that I wouldn't have imagined. And I guess I should have seen this coming by the fact that Buffy was dating a freaking vampire, and the fact that I know that she's gonna be dating another freaking vampire. Spiky. So I just think it's interesting that I feel like they really go towards the unusual couples. I still have a feeling that Joyce and Giles might have something. I don't know if I'm reading into that, but it would be, again, that's another couple that I am almost as horrified as I am with Xander and Cordy. So that couple would really just... So it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to make me ship that. And that's going to show how well they, like how good they are at writing and trying to convince me with these things. Because I feel like the only reason they were able to make Cordy and Xander more digestible for me is that it was a really smooth relationship. It started off strong with like showing us so many of their kisses and stuff like that, which is what really made me opposed to it. But when they actually started taking things a little bit slower and showing some sort of character development and not making them seem like a couple 24/7, that's when I started getting a little bit calmer with everything that was going on and started to ship them a little. But in regards to Buffy and Angel, I feel like this, and I thought about it because I watched the finale yesterday so that I could have some time to kind of think about it before I came back and did this video. I think this is the end of Buffy and Angel, and it's just surprising because considering how much, you know, Angel talks about Buffy being the love of his life and stuff like that, I would have imagined that they were together for a longer time. But you know, I think this is the end because Angel's gone for now. I still don't know how they're gonna solve all that thing and bring him back. I know that they have to, but I'm not sure what they're gonna do and stuff like that. But it definitely feels like he's gonna be MIA for a while, and I guess that when he comes back, I think Buffy's already gonna have moved on. I don't think she's going to Spike immediately because that would be a little bit too much. Like, can she only date vampires? I don't think so. So I think she might date a normal person. That feels weird, but I just mean like, yeah, like a non-vampire, non-mystical person, and then she'll move on to Spike after that. Those are my suspicions in regards to Buffy's love life, but it was very interesting the way in which, you know, for me, I feel like I would be more bummed out about this relationship if everything hadn't happened with Jenny. Because to me, and I talked about this, and I really wish that this hadn't happened, but the fact that Angelus and Angel have the same face, it makes it very hard for me to detach from these characters. And it's like, it's a gut thing, you know? And I try and tell myself it's not the same person, you know? You can like Angelus. No, oh my god, no, you cannot. That's not what I meant to say. I mean, you can like Angel and hate Angelus, and these things shouldn't be like mutually exclusive, but my brain, like, it listens to that and it says, no, you have to hate both. So, you know, Angel kind of lost a little bit of his charm for me just because I got so pissed off with everything that happened. I'm really hurt about that. So I have to say that for me, that made it easier because I'm not that sad that Angel and Buffy seem to be ending, because to me, I'm like, okay, girl, you're gonna move on and you're gonna find someone better. Is that someone gonna be Spike? I'm not sure, and it feels kind of weird to think that it would be. But, you know, definitely I'm kind of done with Angel for now. I'm glad that he's gone. I feel like I was sad about what happened, but only because I saw Buffy suffering. I feel nothing for Angel other than hatred right now. I'm sorry, Angel. I know you're a good guy, and I'm sure I'm gonna be able to forgive you soon, but right now, it's still too soon. It's too soon. But, yeah, I think that if Angel hadn't done that, I would be really bummed out, because I feel like with everything that happened when he turned into Angelus, I slowly started liking him less and less, also because it's been so long since we saw them as a couple, and that's when 219 really fucked me up in the head, because they made my feelings for them come back when I saw them actually acting together as a couple. But at the same time, that wasn't real. So, you know, I would have been more bummed out if Angel hadn't turned into Angelus. Then that relationship would make me suffer. But, you know, now that he's Angelus, I'm like, okay, it's coming to an end, relationships end, and I'm just gonna try and get over it. In regards to Willow and Oz, that's an interesting couple that I thought they were gonna develop more, especially after Phases. I was like, oh, now we're finally gonna get to see like Willow and Oz dating. We're gonna get to see like their relationship grow and develop, but they haven't given a lot of emphasis towards that, which is a little bit surprising, but at the same time, they they tend to not focus so much on the romance and seeing the development of the romance like in the front lines. You kind of just see it happening a little bit more in the background, you know. But it was nice to see that when she was in the bed, like in the hospital, she was asking for Oz and stuff like that. So that's a really sweet relationship that I was very scared I was not going to be able to ship. But again, the writers did a very, very good job. You know, I was very, very scared that I wasn't going to be able to ship them because I know that Willow's queer. From what I heard, she is a lesbian. So I was a little bit scared just because I didn't know if this was just going to be like heteronormativity and the fact that she felt the need to fit in, but that's not it. Like, it doesn't seem to be. They were able to create a relationship that was as sweet as Willow is, and I feel like that's exactly what she deserves. So yes, I'm very surprised they were able to get me shipping this one. You know, this is another one of the very, great strength of the Buffy writers, because again, they made me ship a couple that everything inside of me was like, you shouldn't do it, but I did. And oh my god, now that I talk about it, literally all these couples are like, I tell myself I shouldn't ship and then I do, because Buffy, you know, Slayer versus with a vampire, and then there's Willow and Oz and Cordy and Xander, like all these couples that I didn't think I was gonna be able to like. I got attached to them more than I could have imagined. Less with Cordy and Xander, but the rest, surprising, very surprising indeed. I feel like Xander and Cordy have more of an expiration date than Willow and Oz. So I'm excited to see what's gonna happen with that relationship. I'm excited to see Oz werewolfing it up more, because I honestly thought they were gonna give a bigger emphasis to that. I thought that they were gonna bring him into the group more. And I guess maybe they didn't do it because they didn't really have a lot of space in season 2, but I guess I'm excited to see if they're gonna be able to do it in season 3 now that they got rid of Angel. Maybe Oz is going to be sort of a substitute of sorts. So that's going to be exciting, because I feel like I'm equally excited to see their relationship develop as I am to see Oz's character develop, because I feel like he's one of the characters that we know the least in regards to his personality. We don't really know what he does other than being in a band and being a werewolf. And I know that that's not his whole personality, so I am excited to find out more about him. And lastly, you know, the couple that I have been avoiding talking about because I don't want to cry, but Giles and Jenny. Yeah, from the first moment they came on my screen, I was like, yeah, that's my couple. They're my number one. And it's devastating what they did to me. But you know, the more I think about it, the more I understand that Jenny, oh god, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Jenny was the right character to kill. And I hate saying this, but the thing is that, like, I was really pissed off at the writers. I was like, how dare you make me get attached to this wonderful woman and then kill her and have her lover find her body? Like, that is fucked up. Y'all need therapy. But the thing is, I'm the one who needs therapy after that scene for sure. But I mean, like, they needed a death that would raise the stakes. They did, because while the bad guys are bad, it's completely different when they kill someone that you know and that you love, because that just makes everything more worrisome, because you're like, oh, if they killed that person, that means they can kill anyone. And they couldn't have killed one of the main characters, because that would be too much, like way too much. So I understand that they would have to kill one of the minor characters. And out of the minor characters, the only ones that would be like an option, I guess, would be like pretty much her, because she's the one that we've actually met since season 1. Or maybe like Oz, I don't know. But Oz wouldn't have the same effect because we haven't seen him as much and he wasn't as part of the gang. So I understand that it had to be her. I don't like it. If I could, I would bring her back. She was a good middle ground in between killing someone who matters a lot and someone who is kind of just a side character. Yeah, it's not like they could have killed Joyce either. Like it had to be her, but I think it's so mean that before her death, they really set her up, or at least my interpretation of it is that they were setting up so many cool things going for her that I was just thriving thinking of all the things she was going to be able to accomplish. And I was like, oh my god, she's going to be so cool, and she's going to do spells, and she's going to just, you know, marry Giles. I don't know. I was like so excited for her future, and I think that's what made it hurt the most. So they did a really good job of getting my hopes up and definitely not realize what was coming, even though they made it so subtle in the episode itself. But her death was very well done. Meanwhile, I don't really like Kendra's death. I think I already talked about this, so I'm not going to repeat myself. I think it was necessary because, again, it raises the stakes when you see Drew kill somebody in her first time fighting with one of the characters, to see her kill them. That's harsh. That is necessary, and I get it because it makes me feel like they're setting up Drew as a really big bad for the following season. So I understand why it had to be Kendra who died. I think they're really good at picking the characters, the right characters to die. This feels horrible to say, but I definitely think that they could have done something similar to Miss Calendar, where they gave her a little bit more emphasis before they killed her. I think that would have made the death more sad, because right now I didn't even think it was that sad, because while it was meaningful to see her give her thing to Buffy and stuff like that, but you know, they could have made something worse that made us feel worse. But I guess they were just trying to prepare us emotionally for what was going to be the worst death, which was Angel's. But the thing is that, unfortunately, since I know that a spinoff exists, I know that Angel can't be dead. So to me, that death, which I'm sure would have hit me more if I was actually worried about him, like that would have really made me sad. And I understand that maybe Kendra's death was downplayed so that the Angel one could be really, really meaningful. But the thing is that, and maybe this is me just getting stuck in denial again, because we know that happens vis-a-vis passion. But I mean, like, to me, I'm not awfully concerned about what happened to Angel, other than the ways in which it affected Buffy, just because I know that Angel's gonna eventually come back, or even if he died, he's gonna have to rise back from the dead or something like that. But from what I saw, and potentially connecting it back to Angel, it seems like he just went through one of those portals that I think we saw, because I think it was his son Connor who went through one of these portals and basically grew up in a different dimension. So what I'm guessing is Angel's gonna just pop by after a few episodes. He's gonna be like, I was in a different dimension, what's up guys, what did I miss? It's been like 5 years. I don't know. Like 5 years for him, I mean. I don't know what they're going for. I don't know if they're gonna bring him back like from the dead together with Darla. I told myself I was gonna keep the predictions for the end of the episode, but I guess here are my Angel predictions. I don't know if they're gonna do a whole thing of like a really big bad who literally wants to bring back people from the dead, and so basically he would bring back Angel and Darla, so then they would come together. I don't know if Angel was really sucked by a portal, which I think is my main theory, that he's alive in the other side of the portal, and then when he comes back, he's gonna be like, oh, these are my friends, Wes, or what's her name? Faith. I don't know. I just went on a huge tangent, and I have no idea how I started this thought and what got me into this. But I think I was talking about, I think I was talking about Kendra. Okay, so I wish that maybe instead of having Go Fish as an episode this late in the season, that they would have made an episode focused on Kendra, where Kendra and Buffy were fighting something together, like throughout the entire episode, where they bonded, where we bonded with Kendra, and then they killed her, and then we would be devastated. So I just think that death, it feels like they did it on purpose, not to make it such a sad death. But it was still sad for me personally, because I really, what's killing me about these deaths, pun not intended, is that I feel like they're picking characters that I feel like have so much space left to grow and so much that I want to learn about them, and then now they're just dead. So it's like, okay, I guess I won't find out what the heck like happened. I don't know. In regards to character development, I think I can definitely see some sort of character developments happening, but I think that mostly they would be in Cordy. I think that she definitely was the one that made the most progress when she got away from Harmony and the girls and started becoming her own person. I think that's amazing for her. I'm really happy that she was able to do that, because I don't know, I didn't know if she would ever be able to do that. So I'm glad that she was, because it feels like now she has opportunity to become her own person with her own interests and explore whatever sides of her she wants to. And that means that she gets to be more involved with the gang, which is amazing, because I honestly expected after Prophecy Girl that, you know, we were gonna start 201 with Cordy already being a part of the gang, kind of like how Giles, Willow, and Xander are. But that's not what happened. She was still pretty far away, and it took her relationship with Xander to actually make her become more involved in the storylines. So I really like that now she's a part of the gang, just like all the others. She's proving herself to be useful, which is amazing. But with Xander, he definitely he had so much progress, which I'm really excited about, because it feels like while I feel like Cordy, sure, she can progress a little bit more, I feel like she made the switch where her character development changed as much as it can, and of course she can change more, but I feel like that's the change that needed to happen. Meanwhile, I feel like, for example, characters like Xander still have a lot more room to grow, just in the sense that I am so excited about his whole army thing, and the fact that he's really getting into fighting and getting good at fighting and really starting to put himself in danger more. And this makes it sound like I'm happy he's putting himself in danger. What I mean is, I complained since the beginning of the show where I was like, bro, I need these people to help Buffy. I wanted them to be more active, and he's really proving himself to be very, very active. I feel like I want to say even more than Giles, because Giles, you know, he's kind of in the books and stuff, and I feel like that's a little bit where Willow's going. But Xander, you know, he feels like he can really be an asset for Buffy. You know, the more he learns to fight and defend himself and potentially help Buffy. Because whenever Buffy's in trouble, I'm always like, I'm gonna need someone to help her, but I never know who can help her. But now it feels like these characters are starting to get to a place where they can be helpful to Buffy in a real way, other than just emotional support and being like, go Slay, you got this. I feel like now they can actually fight, because Xander will be able to help her just help fight. And Willow, my girl Willow, you know, with all her witch stuff, I feel like she has a lot that she can offer in regards to helping Buffy and other spells and things that I'm sure are going to come up in season 3. So that's exciting, because it feels like they're all falling into place, and I really dig that this was one of the things that I expected from season 2 from the beginning. I feel like maybe this was the one thing that I knew was going to happen, is that the squad was going to become a more serious squad. They were gonna find their places better, and everything was just gonna work better. And so I'm glad that it is, because even Cordy, I think it was 218, yeah, Cordy really showed herself, you know, by doing some research and stuff like that. So I think that Cordy is the only one who still is missing a little bit to show how she fits into the gang. She started showing it now that she's really a part of it, but I think that, you know, season 3 is going to be her season of really getting the hang of how to fit in. Meanwhile, Xander and Willow, who already feel like they are in, they're just going to improve their skills and know how to be better. And I also think that Oz is going to be someone who is going to join the gang and really learn his place in the gang. And I think that that's also going to happen to Faith. I feel like these are going to be the two. I'm not sure if Oz is going to have the same involvement in the gang as Faith, but I definitely think that Faith is someone who's very involved, because she feels like someone who's very involved in the show. So I think that she's definitely going to have to be a part of the gang in a very big way. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to balance that with Buffy. I don't know, but she definitely has to come in season 3. And I'm also excited to see about Giles, how he's going to react to Wes, because Wes is somebody who also has to come in on season 3 just because he has to. I'm saying it. I mean, the fact that season 4 is connected to season 1 of Angel, even though Wes is not there in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't really see the beginning. That makes me think that he has to show up this season. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how, because I feel like Wes and Giles are such just similar characters with similar personalities that I feel like they're either going to become best friends, like what I expected from Buffy and Kendra, or they're going to have really big troubles because they're both going to think they're always right and that they have to be the ones to do everything. So that could actually lead to conflict. So I'm curious to see about how those relationships are going to unfold, and if Buffy and Faith are going to have, because they also feel like they're probably going to have similar problems than she did with Kendra. So are they going to become besties? Are they going to fight? I don't know, but I'm excited to see, because I feel like both of these have really big possibilities for friendships, and I love friendships, so I want to see how those things are going to happen. Something that this season really gave me, which I think is very exciting, is that I kind of understand reaction videos a little bit better. And what I mean by this is that after I watched the episode of Jenny's death, after I watched Passion, I was really suffering, and then I had to suffer through editing, which I have never edited an episode so quickly because I just wanted to get rid of it because I was suffering so much because I was crying while editing, as you guys have seen in my video. But anyways, after I finished editing it and stuff, I was like, I just felt kind of, I was like sad. I was just sad. There's no other explanation. And so what I did is that I got curious because I was feeling really, really bad about my reaction just because I was like, I did not react to this as I was supposed to because I didn't believe it was happening. My denial was so big that instead of being completely, you know, just moved by her death, I didn't know what the fuck was happening. And so after everything, I thought to myself, I'm curious and I want to see how other people are reacting to her death. And so that's what I did. Like, I don't know, I think it was maybe like 3 days after I filmed the episode, because I was still thinking about Jenny. I still hadn't been able to gather the strength to see the next episode. So I just went on YouTube and I checked a few reactors, which I've heard of. Most of them were from the reactor chat. They're like the names that I know, because I actively don't search for anything like that, especially because otherwise my YouTube recommended, just from these Buffy videos, like I get so many recommendations for Buffy things and I'm doing my best. I'm always like, do not recommend because otherwise I will be getting a spoiler. So I always avoid everything. But I got very curious to see how people reacted to her death. So it's very interesting because I clicked, I'm not going to say names because I don't know, I don't want to put people on the spot, but I saw some of my reactor friends' reactions to that. So it was very devastating to see them suffer as well. It was hilarious to see how shocked they were because I was like, bro, same. It's like everyone made the same face of just pure shock. So, you know, I felt seen. And I think that that's what you guys like about reaction videos. You know, that's the point that I was gonna give, is just that I feel like with this show has so many twists and so many meaningful things that happen that I kind of understand why you guys want to see how other people are reacting to these things. Because I was like, how did people react to Jenny? Even though I didn't watch the full reaction videos, I didn't see any of the ending, like analysis-wise, because I don't want to be biased with anything, which is why I've especially been avoiding reaction videos. I saw the moments of her death and, you know, just Giles walking in because I wanted to see how they were going to react to that, and the phone scene. Like, I skipped to those 3 scenes just because I wanted to see people's faces and stuff. So it definitely helped me feel understood. I feel like season 2 as a whole is a little bit less dated than season 1 because there were episodes, and the first one that comes to mind is just I, Robot You, Jane. I feel like that was a pretty dated episode. But, I mean, it still made a little bit of sense because, surprisingly enough, so many people date through the internet nowadays. So I just mean, like, it's not that season 1 was very dated, but I feel like even with the fashion in season 2 already feels a little bit different. I don't know. It feels more like something I'd wear, their stuff and stuff. That was a beautiful quote. I mean, like, their clothes and stuff. So while season 1 had a lot of just world building and stuff, which I guess could technically dated a little, season 2 definitely didn't have to do that. So I'm glad because, you know, in season 1 there always needs to be the setups and things like that, and even though we're still learning things in season 2, everything just felt more delicate, and everything that we learned was cool and just led to more questions kind of things, like more open questions in regards to like how vampires, witches, and werewolves work and those kind of things. In regards to fight sequences, because this was something that people talked a lot when I was gonna move from season 1 to season 2, is that they said, oh my god, season 2, like the effects are better, the fight sequences, like all these technical stuffs would be better, and that's not to say that they're not, but this, and I think I talked about this right when I started the season, and it's so crazy because I started it, if I'm not mistaken, on Halloween, so I am having, you know, trying to think back, it feels like forever ago because now we're in like mid-January when I'm filming this, so it's been a while since I saw the beginning of season 2, but I do remember that I talked about how I didn't think I was going to feel that many differences just because that's not the kind of thing that matters so much to me. And even though it did feel like they have some difference in the fight scenes, to me, it was not that important. And I understand that that's going to be important for so many people, but to me, even though I was gonna say I'm not intrigued by fight scenes, that's a little bit of a lie when it comes to Buffy, because I love seeing Buffy kick ass, and that's it. Like, that's just, I would watch an entire show just seeing her kick people. But fight scenes for me aren't that just that intriguing in general, even though this show is the exception. But like, I'm not an action movie kind of person. But what I'm trying to say is that I thought it was interesting because I noticed Jenny's final scene was very different than the other scenes. Like, I don't know, they probably did this on purpose. It was very long, it was very lengthy, and this was something that I noticed in the first episode. I felt like that fight scene was longer than the usual, and with Jenny they did that again because she was running for like 10 minutes, and I was like, okay honey, stop running, like who's gonna save you and stuff like that. And this was probably just part of the build-up to her death, but it definitely felt like it was a bigger scene on purpose. And I guess now I'm worried whenever I see larger scenes, I'm gonna be like, oh honey, are you dying? But yeah, I didn't see that many noticeable sequences for me personally. Like, the special effects were a little bit better, that's cool, that's great, but that's not the kind of thing that I would notice so much if I was just binge watching the show like I would have done if I wasn't doing these reaction videos and stuff. See, now I'm trying to go through my notes to see what else I still haven't talked about. And there's literally just a Cordy quote, and I don't know why I wrote this, but it says, I don't get it. She trying... I wrote this wrong, by the way. I don't get it. She's trying to be a big loner hero or something. Cordy, 217. That's a mood. I think I just wrote this down because it feels like a very accurate description of Buffy. And I think that that's something that Buffy definitely has to work on for the later seasons. I hope she's able to trust people more, but it's so hard. And it's not even trust and let people in. I feel like she's starting to let them in. But with everything that happens, you know, with Jenny, with Kendra, it's normal that she wants to push people away and run away again. You know, because they did that in season 1. And I feel like they were setting this up, just in the sense that, like, season 1, after she killed the Master and she was having to deal with the repercussions of, you know, having killed him, she ran away. She was like, bye, I'm gonna go spend vacations with my daddy. And she just left for a while. And it kind of reminds me of what just happened in season 2, where she just left and we have no idea where she is, where she's going. But, you know, I can understand, you know, after having killed Angel now, that this girl just needs some space because everybody who's around her gets hurt one way or another. So something that I was talking about earlier that I forgot to say is that because season 2 doesn't need to do the same sort of like world building that season 1 has to do, where they're just setting up the characters so that you know who everyone is and just setting up, oh, this is the school and those kind of things. What season 2 can do is that, you know, now they can start presenting new elements and stuff like that. And that's why they did the whole thing of bringing twists into characters you like making Oz a werewolf and those kind of things. You know, that's what made season 2 different for me, is that it went away from what we expected in season 1 and it made everything just more connected in general. Because even the later half of the season, which did have some Monster of the Week episodes, even those monsters were still connected to like the big bad storyline of sorts. So it's interesting that they were able to find a really good balance with that. Even though, like I mentioned before, I wish they hadn't used so much of the season 1 script. Something that I also wanted to discuss a little is just the idea of big bad in this season, which, I'm sorry, my train of thoughts throughout this video, I feel sorry for you guys trying to understand, because I talk about something and then I go back and then I talk again. But what I was gonna say is just that I really, really, really like the season. Like the season-long villains of this season, which I consider to be Spike, Drew, and Angelus. Just because season 1, the Master, now that I look back on it, sure, he's a cool guy, he wanted hell on earth, congratulations, don't all the villains, but he didn't have the same amount of depth and just, I think, humor. I think that's the key element of why I got so attached to Spike, Drew, and Angelus, is that they're so funny and they're so dysfunctional in their relationship. Like, I swear to God that I think they're a fucking throuple at this point. And it's so weird to see the way in which they relate to each other. Like, Angel literally slaps Spike on the face, but he also gives him a forehead kiss. Like, it is so freaking hilarious. And, you know, just seeing, like, Angel and Drew together, but Spike's jealous, like, they are so messy. And I respect it. I think that they were so funny, and I think that the humor is really what made them more lovable. I think that, you know, in season 1, when it comes to the Master, it was hard to like him because he was just boring and evil, and so you look at him and you're like, okay, congratulations, Master. But in season 2, when you look at these characters, it's very hard to hate them, even if they're doing bad things. And this is something that thankfully I noticed it's not just a me thing, because I was like, maybe I am just so fucked up in the head that I kind of really like villains. But so many people said like, oh yeah, I love Spike and Drew. The episodes really are sadder when they're not there. Or yeah, they're my favorite couple. And I'm so glad that it isn't just me and that it's not just in my head. And that just goes to show, again, how great they are with their writing, just because they were able to get us attached to villains. And even though, you know, we are actively cheering for Buffy and we want her to win, and we know that eventually she will win, you know, depending on the cost and stuff like that. But I just mean, like, we still love these other characters so much that it makes it really interesting when they're fighting. Because even though you're cheering for Buffy, because you don't really, you know, when they're together, you have to cheer for Buffy. But I mean, like, when they're alone, I'm like, I am so intrigued by these characters. I want to see what they're doing. I want to see what they're plotting. I want to see what they're like. I wish that the spin-off Angel was literally just Spike, Drew, and Angel. That's it. I would have loved to see a spin-off of just them being bad people, because they were so funny in each of their scenes. They were so weird. And so just this idea of like lovable villains made them much more interesting than the Masters. So they definitely worked a lot better in The Big Bad. And, you know, just getting, for example, a character like Angel, who we knew and loved and trusted, and making him into Angelus was also very fascinating. And David definitely showed his acting skills this season. So many people were talking about this also from the start, just that apparently season 1, David was a model. He didn't even act or anything like that. And, you know, I wasn't judging him too hard, because I was like, yeah, he's doing a fine job with Angel. Angel just doesn't really have a lot of facial expressions. He's kind of just like an undead vampire kind of thing, so he's just that. Like, there's not much to work with. I feel like, you know, sometimes actors, if they're not given so much to work with, of course they're not going to seem like great actors, but he was doing a fine job with Angel. But, you know, bringing in Angelus really, really, really showed me that he actually is a good actor, because the amount of times that he appeared on screen that I literally wanted to punch him were many. So definitely a good job with that, because he proved himself as an actor a lot more than I expected. And so many of the other actors did as well, but I kind of already expected it from them. Like, SMG is absolutely amazing, and so is, like, well, I mean all of them, but I think that SMG really stands out because, of course, she carries the entire show on her back kind of thing. So, you know, every single time she cries, I can feel my heart shattering and stuff like that. And so she didn't have that much to prove for me, because based on what I had seen in season 1, I knew that she was this good. So it's really nice to see them, though, become more familiar with these characters and just become better. So I just opened up the list of episode numbers just because I want to talk about a few episodes. They just really changed things for me, because while there were a lot of Monster of the Week episodes, there were great episodes right in between. Like, okay, of course we have to start with School Hard, because, no, actually, we gotta start with 201, because that was a really big shock. I didn't expect them to be talking about trauma and PTSD and all those things, but it just goes to show how incredible Buffy is. Buffy as the show. I mean, of course, Buffy as the character is also great, but I mean, like, it just showed how great the show is for talking about something this serious and this great, you know. And I had a message from someone on my Patreon who explained all the ways in which they thought this was great, you know, representation and how they did it so right. And I think that that's exactly why it matters to talk about things like this. So I definitely thought it was so great to see her not just move on, because I feel like sometimes shows just forget the things that they did will end up having repercussions that are going to last. So I was so glad that we got to see the repercussions of her dying and coming back to life and killing the Master and all that. The fact that they didn't forget it and they had 201 as an episode talking about that was really interesting, because it's meaningful. And I honestly expected them to do similarly for Jenny, where the following episode was just them talking, not the entire episode talking about her, but I honestly thought we were going to see her death being played out a little bit more. But I guess it seems like this is another one of the scripts that they got from season 1 and then they just incorporated Jenny into it. And it turns out it really worked well because of the whole hospital thing and Buff being in the hospital. Like, that worked out well. But I definitely expected a sort of 201 episode after Jenny's death, which we didn't get, but that's fine. And then the other episode, which really changed things, was School Hard. Because that's when we get presented to the big bad Spike, which was exciting and which, you know, I was like, is he gonna be the big bad? And it turns out he was, kind of, because, you know, after this episode, everything sort of changes because you get to see a little bit of him in pretty much every episode. I think they don't talk about him, maybe for the next 2. Yeah, like, they forgot about him for a little just to build up the tension. But, you know, School Hard definitely changed things by presenting Spike because they presented you to this other villain that I just talked about, which ends up being pretty lovable and pretty great, and I love Spike, which is not something that I expected, because when we originally presented to Spike in 203, I was shocked because I didn't expect him to come in this soon in the show. But also I was curious to see what they were gonna do with his character, because I feel like, and I don't know, maybe I'm gonna have a different view of it once I rewatch Angel, but from what I remember of Angel, Spike was kind of boring. Like, he didn't really do a lot. He was just like, oh, I'm a ghost, Fred save me kind of thing. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is just because I didn't know him well enough to appreciate him and everything like that. So I'm definitely gonna have a very different view when I rewatch, but I'm glad that he seemed a lot more interesting here, because I was scared he was not really gonna have much of a personality, like Master style, and he was just gonna be the big bad and that's it. But no, he had a lot more complexities. He had a lot more depth than that, which was great. So School Hard definitely changed things up and set up like the rest of the season as a whole. So that was great. Plus, they really hinted towards Joyce finding out, and that's just always my kind of jam. And it was great that she found out in the end of season 2, and I think that that's so mean, because even though we saw a little bit of the repercussions of Joyce finding out and having that discussion with Buffy, they didn't explore it half as much as I expected them to, and I guess this is going to be a part of season 3, but it's so mean. I mean, less for me because I can just watch 301 whenever I want to, but I mean, like, if I was watching this live and they made me wait months for me to see like the repercussions of everything that had happened, I would be fucking pissed off, honestly, because not only would I be worried about and jealous, but I would also be like, okay, but what about Joyce and Buffy? Like, where did Buffy go? But I'm definitely curious to see how that's going to change their relationship. I really hope it brings them closer, because I have talked about this multiple times, how I really hope they're able to just get more of a relationship. I feel like this season, and this is something that I had talked about, really changed things in regards to the Buffy and Giles relationship for me. Because I think that in season 1, they were very much just Slayer and Watcher, and that's it. That's kind of how their relationship was. And I feel like after Lie to Me, Buffy started becoming Giles' friend. It's more than just that. And they really played around with the idea of like them arguing a bit, of trying to understand each other when they had their discussions about, I want to slay, but I also want to have a life, and Giles saying, you can't really have a life, you're a slayer, bro, pay attention. And that discussion thankfully united them when they started understanding each other and each other's point of views, and ended up, you know, becoming more reliable for each other and more truthful. So I really love what they did with their relationship and how they became more friends. And I'm expecting that to happen to Joyce now that she knows the truth, and now that Buffy's going to be able to talk to her to some extent. I don't think Buffy's going to tell her everything, because that's just going to drive Joyce absolutely insane. But now that she's going to be able to actually talk a bit to her mother, and her mother's finally going to understand who Buffy is, that's going to change everything in regards to their relationship. And so I feel like it has to go uphill. Like, it can't get worse than what it already is. So yeah, I expect the relationship to get better in season 3. So I'm excited, because I've talked about Joyce finding out for so long that it's so exciting that the moment is finally here. She knows, and now I want to see how that's going to change everything. Okay, but some other episodes that I feel like changed everything. Well, Halloween was just an insane episode. Like, I loved that episode so much. And even though I don't feel like it really furthered the plot other than make Spike be a little bit of a little chicken who runs away. But I guess that also, the fact that he runs away, I think kind of shows me it it adds up to what happened in the finale when he helped. Just in the sense that, you know, everyone was saying he ran away because Buffy has people in her corner, and so he got scared. And I think that while that was true, a part of me, I mentioned this in one of my videos, I was a little bit confused just in the sense of like, sure, she has people, but he's a vampire. I'm pretty sure he could beat all of them. So it didn't really make a lot of sense why he ran for me, personally. Especially because the people that she had in her corner, they were not that helpful. They're better now. But especially in the beginning of season 2, I don't think that the help they could provide would beat Spike. But anyways, I think it makes sense. I think that maybe, and this could be a complete misinterpretation of things. I like to do that a lot. But I think that maybe Spike knew that if he tried, he would be able to kill her. And he just deep down didn't want to do it. He didn't want it to be over, or he just, you know, he doesn't seem like he's such a bad guy as he makes it seem. And so maybe that could be a part of why he ran away. But anyways, Halloween was just, what an episode. I can't wait to rewatch it. That was such a cool episode. And I think that just, it also feels very Buffy, but the episode that really, really felt the Buffiest of all for me is the following episode, which is 207, Lie to Me. And I don't know why that episode, like, moved me so much, but it really did. I feel like that was the first time that I really saw Buffy. I talked about this, I'm not going to repeat myself. But I thought 207 was really where things changed for me, when I was able to understand better just everything. And I feel like that's probably, you know, I remember that I finished 207 and I was trying to just put it into words and I couldn't do it. Like, my reaction for 207, I feel like it was just me saying, I don't know what to say, I'm gonna go, kind of thing. But I still have a hard time explaining everything that 207 represents for me. But I definitely think that this is the episode where I feel like it went beyond just a monster, when, you know, not just the end scene, which I think is what makes the episode for me, but just the fact that, you know, making the evil guy be Buffy's friend, who's suffering, who's dying, everything about Lie to Me is just what makes it, I think, my favorite episode of this season. And I hate that I can't explain why. And the Dark Age, okay, it was very interesting to see Giles' past, see him as more than just the Watcher and what that could mean. And I thought that this was gonna come back some other time in the season because they left, I think it was Ethan, right? Was it Ethan? Giles' like friend, not really friend, who gave Buffy a tattoo, the poor girl. But they definitely had left it open that he would come back. And I completely forgot about it. I'm only remembering it now that I'm going through the episode names. But I definitely expect Ethan to come back in season 3, I guess, because I feel like they still left so many questions open about Giles' past and getting to know that I'm really, 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 really excited to find out about that. I really love getting to know the backstories of these characters, which is why I loved that we got to see a little bit of like flashbacks of Buffy pre-Slayer and finding out she's a Slayer. That was so cool. And now that they set up this narrative device like they did in 219, if I want to say, the hospital episode, I really hope that they get to play with that a little bit more, because they played around with flashbacks a lot in 221. I expected that to follow up in 222. I thought we were still gonna have some flashbacks. We didn't, that's okay. But I hope that season 3 has more flashbacks, not just of Angelus, but I would love to see more of teenage Buffy finding out she's a Slayer, the beginning of slaying and stuff like that. Even though they already gave us so much that I don't want to complain. This feels like that's how far they'll go in the flashbacks. I don't think we'll get to too much more, but it was just really interesting to see how similar Buffy was to Cordy, I guess. Seems like they would have gotten along very well. But just the fact that she changed so much after being a Slayer, and I know that Buffy tends to see it in a negative light. You know, she struggled in the finale again with the idea of being a Slayer, saying she doesn't want to be a Slayer, it's too much pressure, it's too much, she doesn't want to do it. And it's interesting because it feels like her whole personality was changed by that. And it's not just because of slaying, but maybe just the influence these other people had in her life, the fact that she was moving around. It all feels like it changed her, I want to say, for the better. I know that she's suffering and it's horrible, but I mean, like, she felt like she didn't have a lot of personality in the first, when like pre-Slayer. She felt like she was just one of those annoying people who just will do whatever, kind of like Cordy, you know, will do anything to fit in with the group, and the group of sheep and stuff. So, you know, in a way, I feel like being a Slayer helped give her some more freedom. So it's just really, really cool to see that. Ted and Bad Eggs feel so out of place. And it's not that they were bad episodes, I actually really liked it, Ted. And like I said before, this doesn't mean the bad episodes are bad, but it's just some episodes are clearly better than the rest. And, you know, because What's My Line were so good and the following episode wasn't, I guess I was expecting After Innocence. I thought Phases was just gonna be not a boring episode, but it didn't have high expectations, but it was so great and it kept up this like standard of quality, and I think that's what they're gonna do for season 3. At least I hope so, you know, that every episode is just like a Phases of its own. But yeah, after Passion was a really, really big episode, which I already talked about, because it really sets up the fact that nobody's safe, that everybody can die. But what I was trying to do by going through that list was just to say that it definitely had very, very big episodes. You know, Lie to Me changed all the way in which they talked about everything and just talked about it more seriously. And we had amazing episodes that were connected to monsters of the week, like Phases, which is kind of a monster of the week. We had, you know, amazing, just angel-centric and spice-centric episodes. I don't know. It's just like, it was a great season overall. I think that even though there were too many, like, kind of monster of the week standalone episodes, which I think is something that is probably not going to happen so much in season 3. I think that when they do happen, they're going to be like the ones in the later half of the season where they're still connected anyways to the main story, so they still serve their purpose in a way. So the stories are just more linked and intertwined, which I think just makes it a lot better. So I definitely think that that's going to happen in season 3. Like, all of the episodes are kind of going to be like that, intertwined, even if they're monster of the week. Also, something small that I forgot to mention when I was talking about relationships is that I think that this is the end of the love triangle. I said that in my season 1 video, and it kind of wasn't. But especially, I was concerned. There were these episodes where I felt like they were developing something among Buffy and Xander again, and I was really concerned. Because, like, oh yeah, it was like Bewitched, Bewildered, Be something, I think. So I was definitely worried about that, but they didn't follow up on it, so I guess that was just me reading into things. So I'm glad that the love triangle seems to be in an end, coming to an end. Okay, now let's do season 3 predictions. I think I've already talked about a few things. Those things I'm not going to repeat, so I'm going to try and stick to the new. I think I've already talked about some things, but anyways, basically what I expect for each character. In regards to new characters, you know, now that this season we had big losses of Jenny, Kendra, and possibly Angel for a good part of season 3. I don't know if he's coming back at all. I think he is, but I'm not sure. So they definitely need people to replace them, and unfortunately, my Angel knowledge already gives up a little bit of, like, I already have an idea of who it would be. I think it is gonna be Wes and Wes and Faith. I think they're definitely gonna come in season 3. What I talked about a little is that I think it would be interesting if either Buffy or Angel, whenever they come back from wherever the hell they are, brought in one of these. I don't know, maybe Buffy finds Wes and Angel finds Faith, and then boom, there we go. But I don't know, but I definitely expect them to show up sometime in the very beginning of season 3, like maybe the first episode or something. Because I think they're going to be the new additions to the cast. Because somebody's got to be replaced, right, in the intro, because they're going to take away David. I feel like, I don't know, maybe. I think it might be Faith, but we'll see. So I'm definitely expecting these new characters. In regards to the characters we already know, I think Willow has the character arc that I can guess the most. I'm expecting her to be witchy. I think that she's going to prove herself. She's really going to learn how to do all the witch things until she becomes really witchy. I don't know how else to put this, but it was definitely creepy to see when she got, like, it's not possessed, but when she was really into the spell and she was just reading the things in Latin, and it really got scary because I feel like Willow got away from us for a second, because Giles was talking about how this is really dark magic and she was already really weak. So this is probably not going to end anywhere good. But for now, she's going to be helpful, and I dig that. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like I've already talked about all my predictions. In regards to the season 3 big bad, I definitely think that that season, I I mean, I'm saying it with so much certainty that now I feel like it won't happen. But I feel like they would set up the big bad in the beginning of a 301. Not the beginning of 301, but at a certain point in 301. I definitely think it's going to be something a little bit more like mysterious and prophecy-like. Kind of like how I saw it in Angel. Of someone who kind of just wants to like end the world kind of thing. I think it's got to be like a really bad big bad. So I think that they're definitely going to set it up in the beginning of the season so that even when we're having our monsters of the week, which are probably going to be a big part of the season, like any other season, they're always going to be in the background like Spike, Drew, and Angelus were. And I definitely don't think we've seen, while Angel is going to be MIA, I think Spike and Drew are going to be MIA for a while. But just because of what Drew did to Kendra, I feel like they were setting her up as a big villain. So I think they definitely have to come back soon. So I'm going to give them a few episodes off. Enjoy your time, calm down, but then come back to me, people, please. But yeah, I think they're going to be setting up the big bad a little bit earlier that season. But I think I'm way too invested in the big bad. Everybody was telling me this. They were like, girl, chill the fuck down. Season 2 barely even has a big bad. But it did. It did. In a very different way than I expected, but it did. You know what? I'm not going to repeat myself. I think I already ended up making my predictions while I was talking. I think those would be my main predictions. We're going to have to see how those things work out or not. But I have to say that the thing I am most excited about season 3 is to meet these new characters, because I think that there are so many characters that haven't been presented to yet. So of course there could be more people other than Wes and Faith, but because I know of the existence of them, they're the two that I'm most excited to meet. I should probably go because my voice is almost giving up on me, because I've been talking for about 2 hours, more than 2 hours, because I filmed my season 2 Q&A video right before this, which I guess was a terrible decision, because I spoke for 1 hour in that video and now I've been speaking for another hour in this one. So basically I can't even feel my throat anymore. So I'm definitely gonna go. Thank you all for listening. I hope I didn't bore you all to death. I really appreciate all of you sticking with me through season 2. And I will see you all in season 3, which I have very high hopes from, and I can't wait to see what the heck they're gonna do.